what's this? I'm actually posting within 2 weeks of my last upload. Bro, this is insane. I'm basically a professional YouTuber now. Today, I want to show you guys 5 command block tips. Now, these are things that mostly I've discovered for myself within the past few months or so, and I have found to be really helpful. Now, these are going in, approximate order of complexity, so like the first one can be used by pretty much anyone just starting out with commands, while the last ones are more complicated, but also still really useful. Now, I'm hoping to make this an ongoing series, so please let me know if you guys have any tips yourselves that you found really helpful. And without further ado, let's get on to the first tip. So this right here is an armor stand, and this right here is also an armor stand. Obviously, this armor stand here is invisible, and things like that are the reason why armor stands have long been used as the placeholder entities in any command block contraption. Now, if you're like me and you're stupid, then you don't know that they actually added in a new entity called the marker, and this is literally the placeholder entity. Its only purpose is to be a placeholder. Now, why is this better than armor stands? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, since it's a dedicated placeholder, it causes much less lag than an armor stand does, and even more importantly, I can summon a marker with any entity data I want to. If you summon an armor stand with custom entity data, it does not save that data. So markers are really helpful, and I feel like kind of an idiot that I did not know that they existed until like a week or two ago, so I am trying to save you guys from that same idiocy. Tip number 2 has to do with random number generation. Random number generation can be a real pain in Minecraft, because unfortunately for some reason there's actually no way to just give a scoreboard a random number normally. Luckily, there is actually a pretty decent solution. All entities in Minecraft actually have a UUID. And the way this is stored is as 4 essentially random numbers. So these numbers just exist for any entity. Now you can actually just go ahead and store these random numbers into a scoreboard. So this is a really powerful thing to be able to do. You can just summon placeholder entities and each one will come with a set of 4 random numbers. So Mojang, please still add a scoreboard random function, but for now, this is the best we've got, and it's really helpful to know about. Our next tip is one that I've talked about occasionally and used several times throughout my creations, but I don't think I've ever addressed it specifically. So one thing that's really powerful about JSON text is its ability to show you dynamic values, like say the value of a scoreboard. If I change this scoreboard value, then the text will also update the next time I send it, and that's really helpful for a lot of things. However, there are some situations in which such dynamic text just doesn't work. For example, if I summon a pig here and I try to have the pig have the score number in its name, it just doesn't work. It just gets left blank. Why this is, I really don't know, but it's a huge pain. Luckily, there is a workaround, and it involves our friend, the sign. So if you set the text of a sign to be a score, like we've done in the past, it works. Here's the powerful thing. If we now get the value of this text, it's literally just stored as text. It's no longer a dynamic number, it's just text. What that means is that if you want to use dynamic text from JSON to change, say, the name of an entity, what you can do is you can put that dynamic text into a sign, and then simply set the name of your friendly entity from that sign's text, and it will work. It is still kind of clunky, especially when you want to change the name of an item, but it's really much better to be able to do it awkwardly than not be able to do it at all. This next tip I have to show you is actually a really strange one. So in these 2 command blocks, I have just 2 commands which will push messages to chat, and if I run them, each one only gets run once, even though the command blocks are facing into each other, so you'd expect them to just bounce back and forth indefinitely. That's not the way it works. However, there's a little bit of NBT data for the block called update last execution, and if you set that to 0 for both blocks and then run it again, it will lag out because it's doing it a whole awful lot, and then you can see I'm getting all these high 1, high 2s. Wow, this is way laggier than I thought it would be. Okay, and let that be a mild cautionary tale to you. Being able to do this with these command blocks is obviously really powerful. However, running an infinite loop can also, believe it or not, cause some mild lag. What you can do to help fix that lag is change the max command chain length, which by default is about 65,000. So for example, if I set that to only 1,000 and then run these commands, it lags for a second, but it catches up much faster. So think about what you want to do. So think carefully about what exactly it is you want to do with these loops, and make sure you're not running these command blocks more than you have to, because if you do, you will cause yourself a lot of pain. And so we arrive at our fifth and final tip of the video. Now this one has to do with looping through lists of things in NBT. So what do I mean by a list of things? Well, for example, the items in this chest are actually a list. If I get the items data of this block, it spits out a list, right? We have our redstone, and we have our honeycomb, and our gold, and so forth and so on. Now, you can access individual items within the list by putting brackets around it and putting down the number of the item you want to access, starting with 0, because that's how computers work. So for example, if I want to see the redstone, I say, give me items 0. And it tells me about the redstone. Or if I want to see, I don't know, whatever item 3 is. Yeah, the emerald. It'll tell me about the emeralds. Now, let's say, for some reason, I wanted to be able to just go through these items in order by pressing this button. So, like, I press the button once, and it tells me about the redstone, and then I press it again, and it tells me about the honeycomb, and so on. This is kind of a weird example. Obviously, this is not something terribly practical in itself, but I think the idea behind it will hopefully be really useful. Now, in a normal programming language, what you would do is you would say items, say I, where I is a variable. So I would start at 0, I would say give me items I, and then I would add 1 to I, so it's 1, and say give me items I again, and it would give me items 1, and so forth and so on. But unfortunately, Minecraft doesn't like that because it's mean and bad, and so I'm sad. Luckily, there is an alternative, but it's a little bit awkward. If you copy the list of items you care about to NBT storage, then what you can do is you can say, tell me about item 0, and then remove items 0. Then every single item in the list gets shifted back 1, so then item 0 is now the next item in the list. So then you can have it tell you about item 0 again, and repeat and repeat. So just briefly, I've set up what that will look like in these two command blocks. The first one just tells me about, as we see, item 0, and then this second one quite simply just removes item 0. So as you can see, if I run these, it'll say redstone, and then honeycomb, and then gold, and emerald, and all the ones in this list. Again, this particular application maybe not terribly useful, but I can guarantee you there are a lot of situations where it actually is useful. And those are the 5 super specific but hopefully useful tips that I have for command blocks. I really hope you guys enjoyed this little video of mine. If you did, feel free to, I don't know, do whatever it is you do when you like a video. And if you didn't, then do whatever it is that you do when you don't like videos. So yeah. Again, I'm hoping to make this a series, so by the time I come up with 5 more interesting things to talk about like this, I will do it again because I need video ideas. But otherwise, I will see you next time. Goodbye.